to SCORE, our affiliate committee, Brunch and Learn. We are so excited for you guys to be here. We put a lot of time and effort behind the scenes and bringing you guys great educational information. Today's session is going to be absolutely amazing. What you need to know, AI, marketing. We got the top dogs in the house today from all over for you guys. So we're very excited to be here, very excited to present this information to you. My name is Rob Bates. I'm the affiliate chair for 2026 SCORE Affiliate Committee. This is our affiliate committee team that works hard behind the scenes to bring everything to you. Thank you. They're going to introduce themselves real quick.
I'm Jeannie Jensen, owner of Always the Best Home Staging.
Eric Joyce, the owner of EJP Media.
Tim Jenner, former owner of Taps Termite, now an ambassador for Taps Termite.
Wow. We love you, Tim. I'm Lori Mahan, and I'm with Wells Fargo Private Mortgage.
And she's our breakfast sponsor today.
And I'm Rob Bates. I'm the new owner of Taps Termite and Elite Home Inspections. My former boss over here, Tim, now my future ambassador employee here. So, awesome. And then, thank you, committee. Appreciate it. Lori, go ahead and stay up here. All right, and we want to introduce our breakfast sponsor. You guys are enjoying the breakfast this morning? Yes, absolutely. Lori is our breakfast sponsor. She's going to give you a little bit of information about what she does and her services as well. So everybody, welcome Lori. Thank you, Lori, very much.
Thanks, Scott. Is this working? Oh, yeah, that works. Okay, so I'm a little vertically challenged, so I got to get it right in the same spot. So I'm so excited about our panel today. I've been looking forward to it all week. Today, though, I wanted to review just a few niche programs that we have at Wells Fargo that might be helpful in this competitive market. As we know, financing can play an integral part of putting an offer together, and my goal is to help position my buyers to make the strongest offer and to win the deal. And one of the best resources that we have for that is our underwritten pre-approval. Now, we have two types of pre-approvals. We've got the priority buyer pre-approval, and it says right on it, if you've got a listing, you get an offer, and you're wondering which is which, the priority buyer pre-approval is the DU approval. It basically just takes the information that a borrower inputs into the system and it spits out an approval. There's no verification with that type of approval. With the underwritten pre-approval, we take the credit, the assets, and the supporting documents and the income, and the underwriters actually physically review it, puts the buyer in a much stronger position, and it allows us to check the box on the contract, right? The underwriting box, which I think helps when there's multiple offers. Both are done on a soft credit check, and that's pretty new, and it's pretty cool because it doesn't impact the borrower's credit score, and it doesn't cost them anything. So the only thing to lose, really, with the underwritten pre-approval is the borrower's time. And for buyers, listing agents, and sellers, what that does is it gives everybody in the whole transaction confidence that the deal is going to close and it's going to close on time. One of my favorite programs is called our Recast program. You may be familiar with it. It's perfect for move-up buyers. Buyers can actually purchase their next home first and then sell their departure residence after, apply the proceeds of that sale to their new mortgage and drop their payment without having to refinance. And now they can recast as often as they like for the life of that loan. So it's called the Recast program. Normally, when a buyer pays down their mortgage, it shortens the term of their loan. But this allows us to decrease their payment, which is pretty cool. And the flexibility really helps for buyers that don't want to sell first. So we got a lot of move-up families that are in that same position. One of my favorite programs is the Union Plus program. If you've been familiar with anybody that's in a union, nurses, police officers, firefighters, plumbers, in fact, it's a great resource. And the benefits include hardship assistance and also a $500 gift card after closing, which can be used for, dinners, whatever, shoes. Our union and our closing cost grant is It's designed for first-time buyers, and it's up to $10,000 grant for census tract and income limits. And also, the board has a great $10,000 first-time buyer program too. If you're not familiar with it, I'd check it out. And lastly, one of the strongest affordability tools that I have, you guys probably all know about it, is our relationship rate discount, right? So buyers can use eligible funds that they intend to use for their down payment to apply to discount their rates significantly. So they can use checking, savings, IRAs, old IRAs that are laying around. They can use stock, and they don't have to cash their stock out to move it over to qualify for some pretty deep discounts. Once we've verified the funds on deposit, they can move those same funds into title and use them for closing. For all of the discount tiers, for rates, and if you want to just check out some of my awesome customer reviews on my website is super simple. It's www.lorimahan.com. I'm not related to Matt, but I did do an AI search yesterday just to check, and it came up with a whole bunch of ideas to really get down deep into my genealogy. So it's, again, www.lorimahan.com. And my goal really is simple. It's to help my buyers compete strategically. If we do a good job with our loan and strengthen the borrower's financing, you guys can close more transactions with no surprises. And because financing is the most important part of the deal, unless they're paying cash, and I have a whole nother program for that. But when financing is strong and the process is really smooth, then we all win. So thanks for being here, and thanks to our panel.
Woohoo! Right on, Lori. Thank you, thank you. All right, you guys, drum roll, ready for the main event? By show of hands, how many of you guys used any AI so far? Yeah? Chat GTP, Gemini, GPT? Oh, I said it backwards. Right on. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I've been using it lately. I'm finding it. I actually just bought I transferred over our old website to a new website, and it's an AI website builder, and it's amazing, you guys. I mean, it's crazy. I can't do anything that I want to do, when you're doing any code or loading stuff. I'm an old coder and everything, so it kind of took a little bit getting used to. But you just talk to it and tell it what you want it to do, and it does its little thing, boom, and then it's there. It's crazy where we're at today. So I'm excited to learn about what we can do to market our business and to use AI in our business, and what we can't do, what'll keep our butts out of jail, right, kind of thing. So we're going to turn it over to Mike. Mike's our awesome moderator, amazing user of technology in today's world. Mike, the owner, EQ1. Yes, sir. Everybody give it up for Mike.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good morning. All right. Well, at least we cut through who's using it, who's not using it, because I was worried about half of us will be using it, half of us would be nervous, but that's okay, because AI is here to stay, and it's something that will enhance our business, but at the same time, we need to know what we should do, what we shouldn't do, how we could stay out of trouble. And that's why we have these three gentlemen here with us today. Sorry. Left my notes right here. All right. So our goal is simple. We want to cut through the noise and give you practical guidance on how to use AI without putting your license, your listings, and your clients at risk. Who's all with me? Yeah. Woo! All right. Let's wake up today. Everybody had a great breakfast? Now we're going to have a great panel. Like, my energy is starting to come up right now. All right. Wonderful. So we're bringing together three critical perspectives that we have today. Neil Kalin, policy and legal guidance from California Association of Realtors. We have Stephen Lerner, regulatory oversight from the California Department of Real Estate, and real-world enforcement from the MLS side, Mark Messimer. Give them all a round of applause. All right, and I think we will start with Stephen Lerner, if you want to do a brief introduction.
Is this working? How about now? Can you hear me? How about now? Perfect. Well, good morning, Santa Clara. How are you? Well, I am Steve Lerner. I am the Assistant Commissioner for Legal Affairs at the Department of Real Estate. That's a fancy title for Chief Counsel. So I oversee the entire legal department, and I am the Chief Legal Advisor to the Commissioner and the department itself, and I try and keep us out of trouble. And we do a lot of work on developing regulations, basically analyzing some of the new laws coming down, and we do a lot of stuff having to do with prosecuting license discipline with the administrative law judges. So that's a quick overview of me.
Good morning. I'm Neil Kalin. I'm Assistant General Counsel at CAR, California Association of Realtors. And my two primary roles are I'm the Senior Legal Advisor to our Forums Committee, and I write many of CR's amicus briefs that go to appellate court and Supreme Courts. A lot of you know CAR does a lot of activities for you out in the field. I started with the CAR Legal Hotline, still one of the 3 most popular services that CAR offers that all members can reach out to for free. You know, we have a lobbying organization, we have communications, we have internal attorneys that work on corporate development. But here it's all about you today, so I'm going to be focusing on what you need from CAR.
Thanks, Neil.
Hi, good morning. I'm Mark Messimer. I'm with MLS Listings. I'm the Director of Industry Outreach. I've been with you folks for 19 years now, and I found interesting, if you look at this wall up here with all these pictures, I go back into real estate all the way at the very end of the top row because all of those guys were at my dad's house for barbecues and business meetings, and because I am the son of a realtor, I have an appraiser in the family, a loan officer in the family, an escrow officer in the family, so Thanksgiving dinner is wrapped around real estate. That's what we talk about. So welcome. Thanks for coming out today.
Do you need a good realtor?
Not right now, but you never know.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started with the overall big picture, right? So AI has moved fast from like a novelty to an everyday tool that we're using. It's in our emails. It's literally in almost everything that we open up there. There is an AI tool that's enhancing it. So from your perspective, gentlemen, how is AI currently showing up in real estate, and why should agents be paying attention right now? Starting with Steve. Or who would like to start with?
I'm happy to start.
Okay.
Just real quickly, imagine yourself on a walking path. You're walking and a bicycle rider's passing you by, and it gets further ahead of you every step you take. AI is like a sports car. It's going even faster and getting even further ahead of you. We at the Department of Real Estate are starting to see it on several fronts. We're seeing it by agents, licensees. We'll talk about more of things you should be doing when you use AI, because we see some of the problems that come up. We're seeing it in the complaints we get. People, now it's easier, instead of having to sit down and write out a complaint about a licensee who may have violated the real estate law, you just ask AI to put it together and then you submit it into us. So we see a lot of that. We're seeing more on when we actually have hearings. Basically the licensees who are the respondents, if they're not represented by counsel, they may write a brief and they go to AI to help them write that brief. So we're seeing AI basically infiltrate in every aspect of things we do. And so I can get to more of what we're looking at and how we're going to approach it going down the road. But that's just a quick overview of what I see with AI. The other thing I see is, for you all, you probably know it better than me, it's a great tool, and it's going to help you do your jobs more efficiently. And it's going to basically allow you to do more work in less time. Don't cut corners. Make sure that you're reviewing the work, you're supervising. If you're a broker, you're supervising the work of your affiliated licensees. If you're the affiliated licensee, you're proofreading the work you're doing. At the end of the day, that's going to be the common theme I keep coming back to. But that's just a quick overview from the Department of Real Estate.
So from CAR's standpoint, our current leadership is very involved. There's a number of programs that CR has set up to try to educate our members about AI and use of AI in their business. But we'll get to some of that later. Where I see, as a lawyer, AI being used by real estate agents is in marketing and advertising. I see AI being used by your clients who may be questioning your recommendations or your suggestions, and they're researching properties. They're researching how to write offers, how to write counteroffers, how to negotiate once you're in the middle of a contract, because AI is giving them suggestions about what to do. And we see realtors calling the legal hotline because they've looked something up on AI, and really they're trying to confirm whether the advice they got from AI, whichever one it is, whether it's correct or not. And I can tell you from what I hear from the hotline attorneys, it's probably about 50-50 right now. Right? And so very important when I hear that, it might be right, but it's a flip of the coin, it might be wrong too. And so it's very good advice to call an attorney who actually would know one way or the other and can then go out and give advice. And the other thing that we are hearing from our members that we don't have an answer for just yet is members are saying, geez, we need to have some kind of AI policy for our office or our company. CAR does draft a lot of samples. What do we have with that? And as Steve said, it's changing so fast right now. I'm not sure that we could have a policy and have it sit out there without us needing to constantly update it. So we don't have one yet, but I know that's something that CAR is looking at.
From the MLS side, there is not only AI working in the MLS office, there's AI working inside the MLS tools, not only from us, but also from the key vendors we work with, your matrix search tool, your realist tax information, your listing management tool. There's AI tucked in all of those pieces of software, and there's more on the way. I mean, we just launched 2 new products over the last couple of months. Both are based on AI. So prop tech is what we call ourselves out there. It's a weekly change. I like the part about you write it today, and it's obsolete next Thursday. That's how fast AI is moving in the industry. Your job is not to think that AI is going to run you out of business. No, it's the agent sitting next to you that's figuring out how to use AI. That's who you're competing with. And having you at a meeting like this means you're ready to take on the challenge of AI and really max it out. That's where the MLS is going to provide you with not only information, but training events as well to keep you at the forefront of AI because it's changing constantly.
Thank you, Mark. So kind of touch on that, what Neil had said earlier. If you're looking up into AI for legal questions or any questions, 50-50 is what's right and what's wrong, and then what's out there. So the question I have for you all, and we'll start with Mark on this because it's more MLS related, is if AI writes your listing description and something is inaccurate, who's responsible for that?
You guys. You are. I have this, the phrase I use is never entrust AI with your reputation. Okay? Check everything. Simple things. I was doing a review of, I think it was Campbell, and I writing a quick social media post for it, and I asked for, okay, tell me all the great restaurants in Campbell. It lied to me. The 4 of the restaurants didn't even exist anymore. Had I put it out there, my name's sitting on top of that. Okay, never trust AI with your reputation.
So AI don't have jail for you?
Well, I think we'll go to legal for that.
So if you don't mind me picking
Yes,
up
Neil,
there,
please.
To me, you pointed out risks, right? The risk of using AI and relying on AI totally. And I think the risk is we find people out there that have just become lazy. They think, I'm going to put a question in and maybe I'll do another prompt and then maybe a third prompt, but they've become lazy. They've become too reliant on what somebody else or what something else tells them is the right way to do that. And so I think you've got to be very careful. It's good to use it as a tool, but remember, that's what it is. It is a tool, and you need to exercise judgment. And we're just finding in a lot of areas, people don't exercise individual judgment anymore. They just, it came from whichever one you're talking about. So that's the gospel. Well, it's not. It might be in a few weeks or a few years, but right now it's not.
Thank you.
Let me tell you a little story. I was up in Mendocino, further up the coast, about a year ago for a family wedding. And if you've never been to Mendocino, it's an old part of town. It's got cliffs, and the ocean is on the outskirts. I entered into ChatGPT a little while ago, a few weeks ago, when I did a search just out of curiosity. I said, write me up a narrative to sell a house on, and I picked a street in the middle of the old part of town. And I know from having been there that street, you can't see the ocean, okay, unless you're up on like the second floor. But I asked ChatGPT to draft a narrative for me, and I said, I got a house on this particular street, so it came back and told me what a beautiful wraparound deck I had, the sunset views I could see, the nice fireplace for warm, cozy evenings. I said, what if I had a 2-story house? And it told me all the upstairs bedrooms had balconies with ocean views. So the point I'm making is AI wants to please you. It hallucinates a lot. It tries to take all the information out there. So it's really your job as the licensee to proofread everything that is output that you're going to end up putting into your marketing materials or into your contracts or whatever it is. AI can help you get there, but at the end of the day, you're responsible. What I would also encourage you to do, and this is from a DRE enforcement perspective, if you are using AI, keep a copy of the original AI output, and then keep a copy of the changes you made to that AI output before you put it out to the world as a marketing piece. So if you ever got visited by a DRE investigator and you hand them the file, they can see that you actually did some work and actually proofread it before you send it out. If you don't have that, it makes it harder to say that I proofread stuff. But at the end of the day, your license is on the line. You guys worked very hard to get your licenses, to keep your licenses. AI is not a licensee. You are the licensee. So you're the ones that we're going to be looking to, when it comes to enforcement.
Thank you, Stephen. So you have to be the boss of your AI. You have to show it your own identity and correct it as if you are the superior of AI, because otherwise it'll just write, and all of us agents on all of our listing descriptions are all going to start to sound the same. Sandy, you got it. So just to be clear for everyone in the room, if using AI doesn't shift liability away from the agent, correct? True or true? Yep. Everybody's got that. Awesome. Have you already seen cases where AI has contributed to violations? And we can start with Stephen first. Dun, dun, dun.
We're starting to see a few cases roll in, where we see that AI has been involved, but not as many as you think. AI is still in its infancy, but people are starting to use it more and more, and we're starting to get complaints, and we're starting to look at it. But just a few cases where it's come in. What it ultimately boils down to, again, is did the licensee do what they were expected to do and proofread the output? Because we have existing rules that apply to you all that say if you don't do what is expected of you, you're violating the real estate law because you're committing negligence, or you're committing a breach of a fiduciary duty, or you're failing to misrepresent. So it's really incumbent on you to double check that work. And so to answer the question is we're starting to see a few cases roll in where AI is involved, but not as many as you think just yet.
Okay, fair enough.
I have not seen, one of my roles, I mentioned I write briefs, so I look at a lot of appellate cases. I have not seen anything relating to realtors' use of AI that has come to that level. But there's been several very prominent cases relating to lawyers' use of AI that have gone up to the appellate level. And the appellate courts have come down very hard on lawyers that have not exercised their review. Basically saying AI is nothing more than an assistant. When you hire a junior attorney or an assistant and you say write a brief, you better review that junior attorney or that assistant's brief, because you're the one who's signing your name to that document that's going to the court. And courts have come down very, very hard on lawyers who have used AI, especially when there's been hallucinations. So they're citing to cases that don't exist, right? And the court said that's totally improper. You have not exercised your role as the boss, as the supervisor, as the reviewer. And so while I have not seen any real estate cases reach the appellate level, I think those attorney cases are going to be very instructive, and courts can look at that and say, this is one profession that was not supervising the proper use of AI, and we're going to look to that as an example if we get to those cases, if they ever reach that level in California with real estate agents.
And with that, the attorneys or the junior attorneys, they're licensed. If it's real estate and the assistants, we're using AI, it's non-licensed, or unless they're licensed.
No, you're right. As Steve just said, AI is not a licensee. A licensee has to be a human being, right? Whether it's a broker or a salesperson. It could be a corporate entity, but there still has to be a responsible individual behind it, right? And so that makes it even more scary for real estate agents because you're not going to be able to say, there's another licensee that I could try to shift the blame to. You're not going to be able to do that.
Thanks, Neil. And now for you, Mark. On the MLS side, what are you seeing?
On the MLS side, some people are really good with AI, and they make things disappear in the photographs. Those power lines in the backyard that mysteriously disappear. We had a case about 2 months ago, property in Sunnyvale, and gorgeous, brand new house on the property, gorgeous house. But I decided to look at it a little farther because what I saw was, wait a second, on the right side, the shadows are going to the right, and on the left side, the shadows are going to the left, right? That kind of stuff. Even better, there's a good one. It shows the beautiful picture of a fantastic sunset from the backyard, right? Problem is, west is the other direction. There's no way there could be a sunset in that. The brand new house I was just talking about, in real life, because right now it's just a piece of land with a giant PG&E substation right next to it. That substation was not in the photo. Okay, this is why Assembly, now a California state law number 723 was enacted and went into place on January 1st of this year. If you modify a photo using AI, you must say on the photo, digitally altered. Okay? Now, we've been putting that news out there for a long time. We started that news back in late last year, but we're still seeing examples of creativity, we'll call it. Creativity. And certainly from the MLS side, we'll educate first, but if we keep seeing it as a behavior, then we start talking to brokers and we start issuing fines. So.
We all know what happened with creative financing. Now you got creative AI with photos. Go ahead, Steve.
Could we tell on that agent to get the person in trouble?
Absolutely. At the top of every listing, there's a button that says
There's a reporting listing.
At the top of every listing, it says report a listing. Click on it, click photo, and give us the reason why. You can say it's anonymous, right? You can say it's anonymous, so they can't figure it out as to who you are. But our team will go investigate it and make sure that it's corrected immediately. The other ones I love is the phone call we get, to the call center, and the caller says, "I can't talk real loud. He's in the cube right next to me." It happens.
We're going to have you save your questions until the very end.
Yes.
So if you think you might forget them, write them down, but there will be time for questions at the end, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was just going to add to AB 723 that you heard Mark talk about is a new state law, and I think most of you are familiar with it. The Department of Real Estate in the law is specifically tasked with enforcing that law. So if there are violations, and there's a lot of little steps you have to do to comply with it, if there are violations, it could subject your license to license discipline. And if we get complaints, we'll follow up on it. We are working on regulations now to develop some sort of additional guidance to help clarify some of the ambiguities that are circling around the AB 723 law. And we're still a ways away from getting those finalized. But for instance, it says you can do some minor like photoshopping of the background. But what does that mean? How blue can you make the blue sky type of thing? Going back to the comment that Mark said, how you can blur out those power lines. Think about if you have a photo and you have a car parked in the driveway and you want to remove the car, and by doing so you also remove that huge crack in the driveway. That's a big problem because you have to disclose that, and the AB 723 law requires you to basically show a before and after picture. And you have to have that disclaimer, you have to have the before and after picture. So those are things to think about as you're playing with AI and helping you with your photos. So that's a new development for basically 2026.
So I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I was thinking about that. One of the exceptions to making the disclosure and having the before and after was something that Steve just mentioned, which is if you are using common photo editor techniques, right? That could be deemed an exception to making the disclosure and having the before and after pictures. But now everybody uses AI instead of photo editor, and they're becoming so common. You've got a real chore ahead of you for the department to figure out, well, is that really an exception anymore? Because this law that just came into effect January 1st already has language in it that seems outdated in just a few months. And we look forward to seeing what the department comes up with.
And I should add, the AB 723 law applies to the sales of housing, not rentals. There's a law currently making its way, or a bill currently making its way through the legislature that would basically extend those protections to rental properties. And so just keep your eyes alert for that. One of the things that we see in the language of the rental property bill that's under consideration now is defining basically artistic renderings. And so we are always, by regulation, we're trying to figure out what to do on the housing sales side with artistic renderings. So we're going to basically look to see what the legislature does on the rental side and try and match it on the housing side. So these are all things that are in the works. Just to keep your eyes and ears open for that.
And then Mark, you have something to add?
And Steve, those altered photos, that's for every advertising piece. It's not just the MLS.
Yeah, basically, for it applies to any person that's creating advertising, whether it's the licensee or someone under the licensee's control, and whether you do it on a hard sheet and you put it on someone's windshield or leave it in someone's mailbox, or whether you're doing it on your own company website or putting it up on the MLS. If you alter a photo, and it's not one of these minor exceptions, you have two responsibilities. One is you got to disclose it. And there's questions about what is the disclosure, how big does it have to be, where does it have to go, but you have to disclose it, and the regulations are going to try and address that. And then number two, you got to have the before and after, whether it's right next to it on the flyer, whether there's a URL or QR code that takes you to a landing spot where you can find the before and after. You have to have that. There's some confusion that if you put 50 photos down and you alter photo number 3, where do you put the unaltered version of photo number 3? Do you put it right next to photo 3? Do you put it at the end of the 50 photos that you're uploading? So by regulation, we're going to try and address that one as well to clarify that. But remember, there's two obligations under AB 723, disclosure and making available the unaltered version. And we're going to figure out the details about what all that means.
Yeah, so it sounds like with the photos, things can get blurry real fast. So the theme that I'm hearing up here is that enhancement is okay, deception is not, and obviously disclosure plays a huge role in everything. So it kind of moves us to disclosure and transparency, which Stephen already touched on a bit there. Do agents need to disclose when they've used AI in their listings or marketing all the time?
Okay, so I'm gonna leave the law to Stephen, but it's much more than the law, right? I'm in a room talking to realtors, members of the association, and there's several NAR Code of Ethics articles that could apply. So there could be complaints raised, right, with the Professional Standards Board at the association. I'm just going to name a few of them. Article 12 requires a realtor to present a true picture in any advertising or marketing. So are you presenting a true picture if you have an AI edited photo? Article 2 prohibits exaggeration or misrepresentation. So think about that. Article 1 says all parties shall be treated fairly. I'm not sure that that's so much of a photo issue, but it might be an AI issue when we talk about other uses of AI. Article 10 prohibits discrimination, and I know we're going to talk a little bit later on about you've got to be careful with AI that you are not inadvertently discriminating because of something that AI created. So that's a potential article violation. And lastly, Article 11. Article 11 says that you should not perform services basically outside of your area of expertise unless you are affiliating with somebody that can provide that expertise, or in what's really kind of, I think, kind of weird with the article, it says, or unless you make the disclosure. So I guess you can tell a client, I have no expertise in commercial properties, but I'm going to help you buy this commercial property anyway. So apparently, according to the article, as long as you disclose that you're incompetent, there's not a violation of the article if the client uses you for something that you are incompetent in.
Fine print.
Right. So it's not just a law. You're members of NAR. You agree to abide by the Code of Ethics. There are several articles of the Code of Ethics that could apply depending on how AI is being used.
So how many of us wrote down Article 1, 2, 11, and 12? Study those because it's different than the law. Professional standards is what we signed up for. The law is what we have to obey. Right, Stephen?
So Neo just walked you through the ethical side of it, the professional standards side of it. Let me talk a little bit about the legal, the lawful side of it. Right now, there's nothing explicitly in law that requires you to disclose the use of AI if you're going to use it. However, just because it's not required doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. There's a bunch of laws out there that still apply to you. There's negligence. There's basically fiduciary duties. There's representations. There's disclosure laws covering all those subjects. By your failure to specifically share the use of AI, you may find yourself in violation of one of those other laws. So you got to be mindful of that. But it's also a good habit to disclose to your client that when you're using AI to help you and how it's helping you so that your client has a better understanding. And like I said before, document something so it's in your file. So if you do get a visit from an investigator from the Department of Real Estate, they know that you've taken the steps to avoid, stepping into the world of negligence or breaching your fiduciary duties or misrepresentation. So those are all things to think about. But right now, and I don't know if the legislature is going to jump on it, but right now there's nothing explicitly saying you have to disclose. But just because you shouldn't. My recommendation is you probably still should because you have these other laws that will cover you or perhaps you may find yourself in violation of if you do not.
Thanks, Stephen. So it kind of leads to the next question about fair housing, right? Because AI can generate content quickly, but it's not always safely done. And we all know that we can't say that the school's within walking distance anymore. It has to be within minutes. There. Can you touch on it a little, Mark?
Well, we go by the MLS rule of clear and accurate representation. Okay. Well, we've talked about the photo side of it. That's pretty easy to tell sometimes when when the power lines disappear. But the words you use, the data you put in, it needs to be true and accurate. And if it's not, you must disclose. Right now, if it's not true, you just don't know. Right? So you put in a square footage. You better put in the remarks, buyer to verify square footage, right? Disclose is the word there. I will still recall the listing I saw over by Levi Stadium for a condominium, and in the description, because it was reported to us, it said, easy drive to the beach. I live in Santa Cruz. Saturday morning from here to Santa Cruz is not an easy drive by any means, right? So we're going to call up a listing agent, right, and say, hey, you got to make a change there. That's just not right. Now, the other beach, right? Oh yeah. Now the aspect of whose responsibility is or who does it affect? Absolutely, the listing agent's responsible, and they will be affected because we will call them on it. But it's all you buyer agents who walk up to the house and say, "Wait, where's the ADU? The article, the description said there was going to be room for an ADU. Where am I going to put it?" That's your reputation is now on the line. That's why we guard this data so carefully at the MLS, and we do look at pictures, and we have AI reading the descriptions for us. We're looking for things that could be violations, and then we're following up on it. So.
Mark, to follow up on that, are there any specific language that agents use that they don't realize is problematic?
Well, certainly the easy walk, easy walk, that kind of stuff. Anything to do with family. Right? Great family home. No, you can't say that. That's gonna be a violation. We're gonna call you up and have you take that out, kind of stuff.
So it is the responsibility of the agent to verify that information
Yeah,
too as
absolutely.
well before they publish it.
Yep.
Okay.
So I want to add something
Yeah,
there,
definitely.
which is some things that may not be obvious, but at least be conscious about some of these things. All right. So you probably know that in sales, CAR discourages the use of buyer offer letters. But you have buyers who say, I want to try and get a leg up on all the other buyers who are competing for this property. I have had AI create an offer letter for me, and I insist that you as my agent present this. Well, it may not be obvious to you, but the buyer may have given some hints, right? Some racial hints, some religious hints in there that if the seller had taken those into consideration, it could result in a discrimination claim. And I think you also have to think about that when AI is creating graphics for you, right? Do those graphics have, I don't know, only Chinese people in them? Are you saying, that's who we want to appeal to for this property, right? Are there religious symbols that probably are better if they're not there? Not saying it's an automatic violation, but again, AI may not be thinking about those considerations. That's why your job is to think for it when it doesn't think on its own.
Thank you for that. Let's talk about something that's less visible, since we talk about photos, listing descriptions, and all. But it's just as important, which is data. What should agents never put into AI tools? We'll start with Steven.
So I talk about some of the 3 pillars, and it's basically breaches of fiduciary duty, representation, and disclosures. So when you're dealing with AI, when you talk about fiduciary duties, the things that you got to be careful of, because you don't want to put your interests ahead of your client's interests. And one of the things you could do is by and it also addresses the disclosure issue. You have access to your client's proprietary or personal or confidential information, financial information. If you throw that into AI to try and get some sort of output, if it's an outward-facing AI product, a public, you've now just thrown your client's private information into a public domain, and you've breached your fiduciary duty, you've breached the obligation for disclosures or misrepresentations. So you need to be very, very careful about that. So that's one thing to keep in mind on that point.
Yeah, I'll add to that. You're trying to figure out how to market a piece of property. You want to know everything about that piece of property. And so you enter into Gemini as an example. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm being asked to market 123 Main Street. Tell me everything you need to know about that property. I need to know about that property. And can my seller make enough money to buy this house over in this area, right? You could ask that question, but as you said, you've just divulged proprietary information to the relationship you have with that seller. And now, once it's out, you can't pull it back. Once you hit enter, that data goes out, and you can't pull it back. At the MLS, absolutely, we are users of AI in multiple departments. But the one place we draw the line internally is no MLS data will go into AI at all. Nothing. No listing numbers, no buyer's agents, no seller's agent. None of that is allowed to go into AI. So we fake it. Right? We tell AI, hey, I'm trying to do this little thing, and I'm working at an MLS in Wisconsin, right? We never put your data into AI. It's a company policy.
That's a good business practice there.
Speaking of company policies, I think you need to be concerned not just with the principals, but maybe with the boss that you answer to. So if you are with a company The company may say, we have certain proprietary ways that we approach a listing, for example. We don't want any of that to go into a public-facing AI tool. And if you do that, in addition to the concerns with the principals, you may have some trouble with the brokerage that you work for, so you want to find out what can we put into a public-facing one, and does our brokerage have a private AI tool that we can use where we can take advantage of our own internal information.
And I'm going to just pivot real quickly, talk about fraud for a quick minute. There's a lot of bad actors out there, and AI is allowing them to basically do things a lot quicker. So a lot of our software systems, our email systems have security devices built into it. AI is allowing the hackers to discover those vulnerabilities more quickly. And one of the things AI is doing is voice duplication. So sometimes when you get a phone call and you think it's your boss, your colleague, your client, AI may be duplicating that voice, and you act quickly because you think it's urgent. So one of the things you should all be doing at the beginning of your relationship with your client is talk about, how if they get an unprompted email or an unprompted request, how they should treat that, because it may be a hacker just by pure coincidence reaching out, and then they click and they all of a sudden open the door to and expose themselves to some fraudulent conduct. And you as the licensee want to protect yourself too. So you have a lot of information within your control, your client has information. So have that conversation early on with your client about should things change. We've heard stories and horror stories about like escrow directions changing during the middle of an escrow, the wiring instructions. And, I've heard horror stories where that it was a hacker that got in and basically got access to an email of a party in a transaction and instructed the buyer, the seller, or whomever to basically wire the funds to a different account. They thought they were doing what their licensee, their agent instructed them to do, but it turned out the agent had nothing to do with it. So you need to be very, very careful when you see and receive emails. Make sure that they're legit, that they're not phishing emails or scam emails. AI is making those phishing and scam emails more realistic. You also have to talk to your client so when they receive those types of things, they don't step into it as well.
Yeah, and that story all started with a social media post that I just won the offer on this listing for my new house. And then the hackers went through their socials, went through everything else, got in contact, and made that happen. So a lot of things that you share through social media, AI also picks up, the hackers also pick up, and so on and so forth. Yes?
So AI is getting smarter. The people who are committing fraud are getting smarter. I'm going to give you an example, because you may think, well, escrow companies, okay, so these fraudsters, they're going to target escrow companies. They're going to target title companies, places where they know the money is. Maybe they're going to target banks. So here's a good story where something that you may not have thought of. There was a employee in a restaurant sued the owner of the restaurant. The owner did something wrong. I don't know what the owner did wrong. They wound up entering into a settlement agreement. The two attorneys worked out the settlement agreement. All that needed to be finalized was the transfer of money. So somehow a hacker found out about this, sent a fake email from supposedly from the attorney representing the owner of the restaurant to the attorney representing the employee, and said, you're expecting this email, here's the account to send the settlement money to. Okay. And the money did go there. Nobody caught it. There's a lawsuit that involved a lot of different aspects that I don't need to bore you with, but it's so crucial to inform your clients. Be alert. We don't know what triggered somebody to send that email. Maybe the client was posting, hey, I just settled my, posted on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I just settled with my company. I'm getting $1 million. Right? And somebody has an algorithm that picked that up and was able to generate it. So very crucial that your clients be informed, not just at the beginning of the transaction, but at various steps in the transaction. Be careful.
Mark?
I'll take it. True stories. on a weekly basis, the bad guys are calling the MLS and saying, "Hi, I'm Frank Costello, and I want to change my password." Excuse me? Right? They go in, they find you online, they call us so they can change the password, so they can get into the MLS for whatever reason. Could just be to scrape data, right? But that takes place on a weekly basis, and in fact, we stay in contact with the other MLSs throughout Northern California, and we get the reports coming in, right? Hey, we got nailed using this phone number. Keep an eye out for it. And our call center staff has been trained to spot the incoming problem and start asking questions. What was the last deal you did? Who did you do it with? What city was it in, right? We're going to dive down into that listing agent, that agent's data in order to see, if it's true. We get those weekly. Okay, that's how it's becoming more and more prominent out there. B, own story. I get a phone call 2 weeks ago, and it says Chase Bank on it. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll pick up that phone call." They let me know, "Hey, we've had a problem with your account, and we want to make sure it's doing okay. Let's do a call. I'm going to log into your account, and we're going to check it out. And I want you to set up a Zelle account." I'm going, "This doesn't sound right." And I said, "Where are you calling from?" And they said, "Sunnyvale." And I said, "Okay, what's the address?" And that's where I caught him, because 725, whatever it was, 725 All Camino Real. El Camino Real. Shut them down. That's when they hung up on me. Was at that moment. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Keep asking verification questions.
That's a great story.
Hey, Mike, we kind of started this segment with about what not to put into AI, and I just want to do a little segue about be careful about what comes out of AI that you are representing, okay? And so many times during you're in a transaction, something's happening in the transaction, you're negotiating, you're having difficulty, the client wonders what they could do. You can give real estate advice, but you cannot give legal advice. So we are hearing where principals, not just principals, but agents put into AI, "I have this situation for my client, what could we do?" And they get a printout, and what does the AI say? It is giving legal advice. But when it's coming from you to the client, it is as if you are giving legal advice. Steve talked about don't breach your fiduciary duty. Well, giving advice beyond the scope of your expertise of what you're allowed to do can be problematic as well. So it's okay to provide a summary, but once that AI starts going into legal determinations, if you are providing that to a client, no matter what you put in, you've got to consider the output as well.
So that means we should just call CAR legal.
Well, I'm not saying you have to call CR legal. I'm not saying you have to call CR legal, but what I'm saying is you, again, have to exercise judgment and see, oh, well, this is citing code section X, Y, or Z. If you don't know code section X, Y, or Z, then yes, you should call and confirm, or you need to change your prompt so you don't get that kind of response.
Thank you. So we have about 5 minutes left. So we're looking ahead. How do you see AI regulation evolving over the next year or two? And I want to start with Stephen on that.
So one of the challenges that we face is we're the Department of Real Estate. We have jurisdiction over licensees here in the state of California, but AI is far beyond our borders. It's national, it's international. So we could do stuff, and we're looking at stuff like what type of guardrails can we put up. Luckily, the law that governs you all, that's been in place for 50, 60 years now or longer, is still pretty effective today. It basically says that you all have a responsibility to look over the work that you do. Otherwise, you're maybe not maintaining the standard of care that's expected under a negligence standard. Or you failed to disclose something, and our law requires you to disclose material facts. You have a failure to disclose. Or you have basically a concealment issue. Our laws cover all that activity. And luckily, even if technology changes or as it changes, the law still applies. But we are looking specifically at what to do with AI. One of the things we are doing, I'm in the process of updating Regulation 2725, which addresses broker supervision. It gives you a laundry list of what brokers should be doing as part of broker supervision. And one of the things I want to throw in there is basically a requirement that that a policy manual that the broker is expected to keep should include some language on use of AI within the brokerage. Because I think it's really important that everyone understand, from the brokerage to the affiliated licensee to the client, that AI is being used properly through that process. So those are some of the things we're looking at the department. As far as the legislature, I think you're going to see the legislature get more active in the area of AI regulation. You saw it initially with AB 723, the digital alteration bill. You're going to start to see, I think, more bills come up as AI is evolving. So just keep your eyes and ears open for that.
Thank you, Stephen.
And Mark, you're going to tell more about regulation from the MLS standpoint. I'm going to say I don't know where it's going to go. That's where the people on my right and my left are better at that. What I want to say is, regardless of where it goes, I think everyone in this room needs to think about one thing. What value do you add to the transaction that AI cannot add? What do you do? Why should somebody continue to use a real estate agent? Is it because you have one-on-one, you have face-to-face? You don't always have face-to-face in transactions anymore. But you have phone-to-phone. You have knowledge about your market area that maybe AI does not have. Think about what AI is going to enhance you in your business. What do you do that it goes above and beyond whatever the regulations and the requirements are? That's just my advice here.
Thanks, Neil.
Well, certainly the MLS is a AOR owned and operated MLS, right? We've got 6 associations that own us and operate us. The brokers are the brokers are on our board, so they're representing you and the rules and the regulations that we come up with. It's all going to go back to true and accurate representation. No matter what AI does, this is where we started the discussion of, who's at fault. If AI lies, if AI has a hallucination, you are. True and accurate representation of every single piece of data, because that's what separates an MLS, one of the 500 MLSs in the United States right now. That's what separates the MLS from the portals out there where anything goes. Right? Zillow's not calling you up and saying, does it really have a pool in the back? They're just going with it, whatever you tell them. If it's not right and that's what is being displayed in Zillow land, there's nothing I can do. But if you say, if AI tells you to say something and you say it and it's not true, the MLS is the guiding force in that one. And we will educate and then correct at all times.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Stephen,
I was just going to have a quick follow-up. The Department of Real Estate looks at you and your licenses, and if we take disciplinary action against you, we'll either revoke or restrict your license, and that affects your ability to engage in the livelihood of real estate. But separate and apart from that, if you do certain things, you could expose yourself civilly to a lawsuit by another party in the transaction for not properly disclosing or disclosing confidential information. So you want to be careful, both from exposure to a license standpoint, but also for personal liability from a civil standpoint.
Thank you. So I want to thank our panelists today for sharing not just information, but real perspective. Let's give a big round of applause for Stephen, Neil, and Mark.
So we do have time for questions. Can you all hear me now?
Yes. I want to be first.
So what we're going to do is, I'm going to take this side of the room. Lori's going to take that side of the room. If you have a question, can we take your extra mic?
Yes.
Yeah, give it to Lori.
Mike will give up his mic.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah,
Thank you, guys. That was great.
As I said, I'm going to take this side of the room, and what I will ask you to do is, if you have a question, please come up and get the mic or let us know where you are so we can get it to you, okay? So, again, let's give our panel a great round of applause.
Great job.
Okay, this side of the room. So anybody got a question?
Hey.
No? All
She
right.
said I'm first. First of all, gentlemen, you all were fabulous. Yes, you have scared me.
Okay, you really have. This is what, I have a lot of questions, but my main one is, you know how we saw on the media and all that about Taylor Swift's voice being used and it wasn't her? I mean, that's a possibility for us too, right? That they could do that and then call up our sellers or call up our buyers. What can we do to protect ourselves?
That goes back to what we talked about a little earlier, is early on in your relationship with your client, whether it's buyer or seller, have the conversation about, just be on the lookout for any type of fraudulent email, phone call, because AI is, basically it allows fraudsters to basically duplicate your voice. And so you want to make sure that your client's aware if they get an unusual request to call you back, not on the number, not like return dial for whatever call they get, but the number they already have for you in their records. So they call you on the line that they know works for you. And then if they get you, say, hey, I just got an email from you. Did you send me an email asking for XYZ? You say, no, I didn't send that. That's how I would address it, is make sure you have that conversation with the client early on.
Or maybe have a password that we give to them, tamales.
There you go. You have a safe word, like they talk about in other contexts. Okay.
Yes.
But I want to echo something that Steve said, which is when you're having a discussion with a client, doesn't matter buyer or seller side. Part of that discussion these days needs to include, how are you going to communicate with the client? Is it going to be text? Is it going to be phone call? Some clients still like phone calls. Is it going to be email? Is it going to be, I don't know, posting somewhere? So that if the client gets a communication in a different venue, the client needs to think, wait a minute, I thought we had the discussion, I want all communication via text, and now I'm getting a phone call. So I need to be suspicious about that, right? So have that discussion early. This is going to be our primary mode of communication.
Thank you. Mark, real quick, and then I'll get off. We were talking about, like the love letters and this and that, and yes, the seller has the option if they want to read it or not. And I had a situation for, yes, the wife wanted the love letter. But when we were talking about, I think you were talking about earlier about discrimination or whatever, they put on there they were getting married, they were going to have their wedding. Any feedback on that?
Wouldn't be a violation from the MLS side. It's going to be more on the fair housing violation, right? Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
On the topic though of setting expectations with your buyers and sellers, the 55 or so people of you that are in this room right now, if you have that conversation with your buyer or seller, you are separating yourself out from the rest of the competition because you're the one that is looking at every single part of the possible transaction that could take place and putting in a precautionary step. That's going to make your buyer or seller think, this is the person I want to work with. They've thought the whole thing out. It can separate you from your competition.
Okay, we have a question on this side of the room. Go ahead.
Yes. I came to this seminar. What I wanted to find out is, people say that you should use AI for a lot of your work. So I wanted to find out how to use AI for the stuff that we do in the real estate. And in a grid, you have the points, that you have to make sure it's correct on all that you're doing. I have put in the description, the AI to click that to have him write everything. But the one they wrote wasn't that great. Mine was better. For some reason they clicked some of the stuff out. I had to go back and add it in. But I just wanted to find out, as agents, how do we go about using AI for our business? What you're saying is, you have a certain responsibility, what it says, what it not says, and make sure it's correct. So can you answer the question, or how should I go about using AI?
Yeah, I'm going to start with, there's innumerable ways to use AI. So I don't think any of us are saying don't use AI. We're just saying use it carefully, right? So maybe in creating marketing material, in creating advertisements, in creating promos for your listings, in reviewing files, right? A first step in reviewing files, because everything can be put in, right? A lot of things, quite honestly, that maybe you have an assistant or a transaction coordinator do, a lot of that activity can be done through AI, okay? Nothing wrong with using AI. You just need to think, how can I use it effectively in my business, right? AI is going to be good for you. It's going to save you time, and it's going to save you money. but you just want to make sure that however you use it, it doesn't cost you more in time and money later on, right? So I'm not going to say there's X places where you should use it and X places that you should not use it. Use it wherever you can to help you, but just do not totally rely on it. That's the big takeaway. You still have to exercise judgment. You still have to exercise professional review.
Okay.
All I wanted to find out, you have like a something like a training thing on AI that I can go and click AI so I can know how to use it. That was my question actually.
So, yes, we do. At the MLS, yes, we do. And in fact, it's called AI in July. So keep an eye, for those of you that belong to the MLS, there'll be a giant banner at the top of the screen. We're having 5 AI real estate experts come in for free. You can attend for free via Zoom. To talk specifically about, let's talk about your marketing. Let's talk about your branding. Let's talk about farming. Let's talk about, we're gonna march down all the practical steps that you can use. Here's another one that's pretty simple: realist data, right? Public record data. It's out there. Everyone can use it. Pick a neighborhood in Realist. Do the analytics of how long have these people owned this home, right? For a neighborhood. Dump it all into Excel, move it over to your AI tool of choice, and tell AI, write me a letter to longtime homeowners in this neighborhood as to why, when they consider moving for whatever reason, they should use me, right? And let it go to town. It'll generate the letter for you with all the key touch points, all the buzzwords that are necessary for, 66-year-old, homeowner up in the Santa Cruz Mountains who one day is not going to want to climb those 13 stairs to the second story. Okay, it's happening. Why would I want to move, and why should I use that real estate agent? So that's a practical way of doing farming with AI. Create the imagery, create the letter, and you've got your mailing list right there.
I'm going to do a 30-second promo for CAR, okay? Because CAR is doing a lot of activity in the AI arena right now. And I'm not going to read out URLs, but if you go onto CAR's website, car.org, and then in the search, put AI or artificial intelligence. So there's actually a program at Santa Clara University on the 24th of June. Right, so something here. There's one in San Francisco, and I don't have the date here. I'm sorry, I don't have the date, but there's one coming up in San Francisco, and there's something called the SPF, Strategic Planning and Finance Forum, that is also available. So go to car.org, go to the search engine, type in AI, and you'll see a lot of offerings that CAR has to try to help you through this difficult period.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to know, a lot of people, a lot of real estate agents are using AI to get a summary of the HOA documents. I want to know, where do we cross the line when we're getting that summary of being an information to our clients and giving legal advice?
That one's tough. I would be very careful about doing that, okay? Because a summary can leave things out. And if it leaves out the issue that's important to your client, you've got a problem. Now, the documents will be provided to your client. If your client wants to put them into an AI tool and have AI prepare a summary on the client's own volition, I think that's a better approach. Okay?
Mark, regarding photographs being uploaded to the MLS when an agent inputs all the data for a listing, the agent's required per MLS rules to disclose if the photograph's been altered or manipulated. Would you suggest that in the private remarks on that listing, if no photographs that have been uploaded have not been altered, that the agent simply put a remark in there that any or all of the photographs have not been altered, just to cover their bases? Because
Absolutely.
I feel like there's this when you're looking, like, I know when I represent buyers and I go to the MLS and I'm looking through all these photographs of these potential homes that my client might be interested in, there's got to be before and after photographs, and, you know, are the power lines missing, and kind of doing this comparison with photographs. So I've always been of the mindset that if there's additional information disclosing, hey, these photos have not been altered, as the listing agent uploading those photographs. Any suggestions on that?
That's a great tip for all agents. The private remarks can be used for, you know, basically anything, as long as it's not disparaging against, you know, another agent or a piece of property. So absolutely, private remarks would be a great place just to get the word out, disclose, that no photographs have been altered in this photo gallery. You bet.
Neil, I really like the car legal team.
I'll repeat that. You really like the car legal team. Okay.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that. With car offering service to reach out to the legal team, I use it religiously because, again, as an agent, we're not to give legal advice, so I really rely on, you know, the legal hotline. I find myself note-taking when I'm on the phone with an attorney from CAR, and I don't know if this exists or something that CAR may look into, but a lot of times these so-called third-party websites have a chat feature where you can talk to somebody live through chat. Would CAR Legal ever consider agents logging in and using a chat in conversing with an attorney and getting feedback, rather than me having to note-take while I'm on the phone with a CAR Legal attorney?
So we have looked into that in the past, and that idea was rejected. We do not record any of the calls because we are giving legal advice, and that's a confidential communication. So I know sometimes we have somebody who says, oh, I want to confirm, can you send me the attorney's notes or the recording? And we're like, no, we cannot, because we do not do that specifically, because we don't want anybody to be able to purge that confidential communication. I know our general counsel is looking into a lot of different things right now. That could be one of them, but in the current environment, no, we do not have something to satisfy you in that regard.
Okay, I think we're going to take two more questions, one here,
Okay.
and then one over there, okay, for this lady who's been waiting patiently. Okay. Let her do it her side. Oh, okay.
Okay, I just want to comment on Angie's about voice cloning, because I've been doing quite a bit digital and professional voice cloning. I think, can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. I say I want to just comment on Angie's question about voice cloning in terms of Taylor Swift's voice, because I've been doing quite a bit of digital and also professional voice cloning. And I think at current technology, all you guys, unless you're super famous, the voice are all safe, because it takes hours of high quality, like studio sound quality, to get really good voice cloning to sound like you guys. So I don't think it's going to be an issue in terms of phone call and text message as of right now. You know, email is easy to get breaked in, but that's my opinion. I'm not sure the experts here what you guys think, if it's correct or not.
Well, all I would say is I don't have enough expertise to be able to comment how easy or difficult it is to clone. So it would not matter what I say, because it would be a completely uninformed opinion.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Maggie Slavova with Keller Williams, Silicon City. I have a question for the MLS. We heavily rely on the information that we get from the MLS, but I see multiple times, like the agents input wrong information. And it's really not that common, but I've seen it pretty often that the square footage of the ADU is included in the square footage of the house, or unpermitted square footage, or unpermitted bathroom or room is included as count for the rooms and the bathrooms. So my question is, does the MLS use the AI to catch these intentional or unintentional mistakes, because we rely on this information and we cannot control everybody how correct they are in doing this. And my second question is maybe for CAR representative. We see more and more on the social media advertisement of listings in foreign language, 100%. The flyer in foreign language, the representation by the agent in foreign language without translating in English. Does this violate the fair housing in some way?
So we'll start with the MLS question. No, we do not use AI to validate how many bedrooms, bathrooms, even the square footage. We allow the listing agent to, download what the county says the square footage is. But we also have the option of basically, I didn't take the county data. I put in my own number for square footage, kind of stuff. We don't check it, but what we do hear from is people like you who go, this is not a 1,500 square foot house. They included, a portion of the garage in the main square footage, using that report a listing option on every single listing. Remember that you can do it anonymously, okay? But yeah, let us know if you see something in the remarks that's not right. Where did that third bedroom come from? It could just be we took realist data, county data, but it's wrong. Right? Our compliance manager, Robert Bustamante, who's the sheriff of the MLS, so you don't really want to meet him, but he's a nice guy. According to the county of Santa Clara, he's got a second story on his house. He's been looking for that second story now for 25 years because it is not there, kind of stuff. So absolutely, if you see it's wrong, let's report it's wrong. We'll do the work to make sure it gets corrected.
Well, she had two questions, so I'll adjust what I can with the question. It had to do with if there's advertisements in certain or a particular foreign language, there's no English transliteration or translation anywhere on there. Is that a fair housing violation? And I would say, in and of itself, not necessarily, but I think it could be indicative. If there's no other advertisements, there's no other marketing, if everything is directed towards people who read one language, it looks like either the listing broker or the seller is targeting a certain buyer clientele, and other buyers could say, we were being excluded. So in and of itself, not necessarily a violation, but taken as part of the entire marketing program, if there's nothing else, I could see where that would be problematic. Steve, is there something that Deary might have to say about that?
I was just going to agree and concur with what you said. So he nailed it on the head.
Well, first of all, thanks to everybody for being here. Excellent panel, excellent conversation. My question is for Stephen. Pretty much everything we talked about was how to make use of AI safe and proper within our profession. But there is a whole category of unlicensed companies which are building systems which use AI, agentic AI, to pretty much perform license acts. So I would love to hear Steven's perspective on what is the current thinking about taking some enforcement action versus those bad actors. I haven't seen anything, and what I'm really curious, what could be making it challenging to actually go out there and say, you know what, everybody who is doing real estate license acts, they really need to have license. Building autonomous AI agents is not really an excuse for doing that.
So you've raised a real interesting question, because it's a challenge, and like I said earlier, a lot of this AI technology applications are nationwide, not just here in California. When we look at California, if you engage in basically any of the subcategories that we consider license activities, you need to have a real estate license to do that here in the state of California. A lot of times these companies, software designers putting out the AI software, either the company or the designer of the software are not licensees of ours. So it is a concern. We'd be concerned about if someone, a natural person, like like, let's say my sister, who's not a licensee, engaged and tried to, sell property for her neighbor or something like that, we would be very interested in that at the Department of Real Estate. We are interested in the use of AI to substitute and replace what licensees are doing. It's more challenging to get there. And so I'm sure that over time the legislature will be looking more at that. I think over time we are continuing to keep an eye on it and monitoring it. I can also say, I know there's a couple large platforms out there, I won't mention them by name, but if you go through some of their marketing materials, you pull up a house and you scroll down a little ways, you put in some simple data and it will basically tell you what a strong offer is, a medium offer, and a weak offer. If that was done, if I called up any of your brokerages and your unlicensed assistant answered the telephone and gave me that same information, the Department of Real Estate would be concerned with that. So those are things that we have to be aware of, we're learning more about, and we're in discussions to look and doing more about it. But we don't have anything tangible to tell you today.
But it seems for me, the legislature needs to basically show the way and say, we need to actually pursue this, and that's what we are going after. That's
if the legislature has a lot of interest, and this is probably an area that is of interest to them in the years to come, so I would expect to see some activity. And then, obviously, if they pass a law, we'll be charged with enforcing it and implementing it. But I think addressing this issue is more than just the DRE, basically sending letters out. I think it has to be a larger, holistic approach.
All right, I can wrap this up here. Thank you. And to just wrap up again, just give a big thanks to our panelists, Stephen, Neil, and Mark, and thank everyone else that is here too and online, and SCORE for putting this together. The professionals who continued learning are usually the ones still thriving 5 years later. So I want to see all of you here for many, many more classes. And but if we learn these tools correctly, responsibly, and strategically, they can absolutely help us become better professionals and serve our clients at a higher level. So thank you all again for being here. Thank you.
Real quick, I've had a lot of experience with AI, and the other thing, you guys did a great job. It was very informative. However, family and friends, especially elderly, you really need to pay attention to that. The grandparent scheme is a huge, huge thing as well. It's a whole different technology that, you got a client or a family member, a keyword always works. My sons and I have one, so they know if it's me or not. So it is important. We'll give Lori one last minute to say, and Rob wanted me to thank everybody for coming. It was a great turnout and a really good job again. Thank you all.